Welcome to Desh Bangla Live with Tania Amir. I am absolutely honored to have with us today the Right Honourable Baroness Verma. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Do you want to share with us your experience and why you were before the Bangladesh High Commission last Saturday, the 27th of December, 2025?
Thank you, Tania. Actually, it's actually quite important to be able to raise the issues that our Bangladeshi community from the minorities are facing in Bangladesh. This, of course, was taken up because of a young man who was burnt alive after being lynched. And I think it's important that the world sees that persecutions like this are unacceptable. And in countries where we are supporters and promoters of good democracy and good governance, that as the British taxpayer helps fund all of the development programs in Bangladesh, that we are also a critical friend to Bangladesh, given it has an interim government at the moment. Mr. Yunus should really be looking long and hard at what's happening in a country where a former Prime Minister has been deposed of, but there's persecutions and the numbers of people suffering is going up.
Yes, it's certainly a wonderful step for you, someone like yourself, to be there to raise the awareness of the British public and, of course, the world at large. When we talk about the persecution, if I may invite you, that while, yes, there is persecution upon the Hindu communities, but the Hindus are not alone in Bangladesh. It seems to be a drive to push out all the secular thinking people, the progressive thinking people, the intellectuals, the professors, and women in particular. Football against women, there's been persecution, they stopped the game. Girls can hardly go out, they're scared, intimidated. Moral policing is out. Along with the Hindus, there's been a persecution upon the Sufis and the saints. Over 200 Sufi shrines were demolished. About a dozen churches were tarnished. The Buddhist people are also being persecuted. So if we put it all together, the majority people of Bangladesh are under attack by an extremist minority group.
I absolutely agree with everything you've just laid out. And the sad thing is that even when we talk about all of that collectively, there has been an absolute silence, not just from the interim leader of Bangladesh, Mr. Yunus, but also the British government here. And I feel that whilst we can understand that, he's an interim leader, actually the best way for democracy is through elections. And any government, and I've been an observer of elections in Bangladesh in the past. I've actually visited Bangladesh as a minister when I was a DFID minister. So I know the amount of funding that goes in just from the British taxpayer to Bangladesh on promoting programs so that we don't have the sort of incidents that you've just spoken about, but also that have been reported widely from the Bangladeshi Hindu community, minority communities as a whole. I think it's really, really important that we start questioning ourselves on what are we allowing to happen in front of us. It is a cultural genocide,
yes,
going on in front of us, and that's a really strong word. But you were right to say that if we put all the groups together, that is secular Bangladesh being replaced by a small group of people who are taking a role back in and how people's rights are, particularly for women and girls. And I think for a government who says that it stands up for women and girls in this country, it needs to be saying the same, especially especially in countries where we are taxpayers are funding programs.
Thank you so much for identifying the issue as a cultural genocide. As you know, and you have been visiting Bangladesh, and you also have been the former chair of UN Women and tackling violence against women and girls across the world, and you've been a national chair. So, given that background and building the awareness in this country, this kind of persecution that is going on, how does that gel with the image of Dr. Yunus that the West has? Can they reconcile the two? Because what is actually happened on the ground and the image of Dr. Yunus that the West has, is it reconcilable, or do we need to see through that?
No, I think look, he has a role. He has been given a role which is critical, and that is as an interim leader of a country that is going through some challenges and difficulties. And he has got to break his silence and come out and strongly condemn the sort of imagery that we, you, I, many of us have witnessed from paper cuttings, from news cuttings, from videos that have been sent to us by people in Bangladesh. And absolutely, it is not just about the Hindu community. When I wrote to the interim leader, Mr. Yunus, when I wrote to our own Prime Minister Starmer, I put it very clearly that it was not just about Hindus, it was about all minority communities feeling unsafe. And I think that when you gather all of that feeling together, that it is a duty upon us all to make sure that there is a response to those perpetrators.
Well, rather than protesting or criticizing or condemning, the government seems to be giving an impunity. So what we are seeing is that the enforcement agencies of the state, the police and the army, and incidentally the army has been given magisterial power at the moment because they actually burnt 400 police stations. Now, as soon as Dr. Yunus has come into power, he granted an indemnity. So the police killings are not to be investigated or tried. Thereafter, the so-called students, because a lot of them are not students, and now we know that they belong to Shibir, which is a student wing of the Jamaat Islam. They were involved in this uprising. And what is being instigated is kind of a mob, which is state-sponsored. And the state machinery is standing and bystander, just standing and watching. So the mob goes around different universities, colleges, women professors, teachers, and those who are progressive and secular, they're being just humiliated and removed. And certain houses are being targeted. A certain group of people are being targeted. Moral policing is going on against women. And when this sort of lynching goes on, the incident that you're referring to, I believe he was in the police custody. He was taken from the police custody and burnt alive. So there's no condemnation. Dr. Yunus has not gone to the hospital when these women are attacked. Yet the Nobel Prize, partially, because half was given to Grameen Bank and Grameen women, and he got part of it, is really the credit goes to the rural women. And the Jamaat Islam has given fatwa against women working. There's no condemnation of that. Yeah. So the state is actually seems to be ex facie condoning it, and impunity is being given.
Yeah, no, look, I am going to address this to your audience today. I'm going to look the audience in the eyes of all of those people watching today, and I want you to think very carefully about what it is you expect of your representatives that are elected by you. Your representatives need to reflect your challenges and your concerns. And I think the fact that this is such a serious issue of a population of people in a country which we have supported through taxpayer-funded monies. We need to make sure that we also are given answers. And I would highly, highly ask every single person watching this program today to think about what they are going to ask of their members of parliament, because their members of parliament need to know that they have got people here who are concerned where taxpayers' money is being spent. And if it's being spent to silence the voices of women and girls, if it's being spent to halt proper democratic processes, if it's being spent to give strength to those people who are not accountable to anyone because they've been given indemnities by the interim leader, Dr. Yunus, then we really, really need to think very carefully about how taxpayer money is given anywhere in the world. Because this is actually part and parcel of why people get very, very upset. When we start to prop up this sort of legitimization of those regimes that are actually abusing democratic processes.
Rule of law, accountability is, of course, the cornerstone of any democracy. And the very birth of Bangladesh, when Bangladesh came into being, as you know, was based on a secular democracy. Yeah. So the identity, the ethnic and cultural identity of the people, Bengali people, the movement was Bengali language that united everyone. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or Muslim. The identity was that we were Bengali-speaking people. We are an ethnic group. So while Pakistan tried to impose Urdu as the national language, trying to decimate the cultural identity, that triggered, and the Bengalis asserted themselves as a group of people, ethnic group of people, to be recognized, the cultural identity to be recognized. And on top of that, of course, there was persecution, both economic and social, discrimination against the Bengalis. So Pakistan never really had a democratic elected government from its very birth, from 1947 till 1970-71. So the martial law dictator at the time said, all right, we will hold a free and fair election, and those who will be elected will form a constitution, give a constitution for Pakistan. So Pakistan never really had a constitution. So for the first time, there was a free and fair election, and the Bengali people got the majority. So instead of the military dictator handing over power, they unleashed a genocide in the name of political Islam. And that is the tension between having a country, a republic based on secular values where everyone is equal, irrespective of your religious persuasion or your gender or color, and the state of Pakistan, which is an Islamic republic, and they want to impose their version of Islam, which most Bangladeshis do not identify with that Islam. Because Islam for most Bangladeshis is a religion of peace, mostly through Sufis. And the Sufis are being targeted. The Lalun, the Baul, the ascetic singers, the artist, the musical voice of Bengal is being targeted. Udichi, which is a musical group, a school. Another one is Chayanod. They were burned to ashes. And again, no condemnation. So Dr. Yunus has actually talked about, and he said that there's going to be a reset button, forget the history. And a new country where there's nothing of the past, we start afresh, that this is a kind of a alleged, they call it a revolution, and everything starts from 2024. And our identity, the cultural genocide that you mentioned, is being unleashed.
But Tania, you cannot eradicate history. You cannot eradicate the past. It exists. And here's my issue with some of the sort of thinking that's going on about a reset. Elections have not taken place yet. He has no mandate to actually do a reset on anything. What he has got is a mandate to bring harmony and peace back to a country that is in turmoil by condemning violence, by condemning the mob rule that is taking place amongst a large population of different minorities, by condemning the way people are behaving towards women and girls. Now, that is his mandate. His mandate, unless he has been elected through a democratic process, cannot be about a reset button. And I'm sure Dr. Yunus himself understands that, because as an interim leader, he is not there as an elected member by the people of Bangladesh.
Yet he promulgated reform committees. Out of a number of reform committees, one was on the Constitution. And they have a so-called charter where they want to have something de novo. So past is gone. Everything starts from 2024. And in a sense, that is also to give him indemnity and give the president more power, and purporting to change the constitution. Now, as you know, we have a written constitution, and that can only be amended through two-third majority in parliament. As you rightly say, he's not elected. Yet he has this committee, and the chair of this committee, in fact, I know not of none who is a constitutional expert in that committee, and he imported someone known as Ali Riaz from US, who is a political scientist, I suppose. They are purporting to now amend and change the constitution. So none of this has any legitimacy and basis. And Jamaat Islam is now demanding that there needs to be a referendum first to bring that in before there is a national election. Now, incidentally, the referendum, there's no provision for that in the constitution. So that referendum will have, again, no constitutional legitimacy or basis. So they are now purporting to change the constitution, and as such, they're quorum non juris.
But to the point of any democratic process, it has got to be answerable not just to its own citizens. It has a place on the global stage where questions will be asked.
Of course.
And questions will be asked from all of those nations who have been supporting Bangladesh over the years through economic funding. Not only that, I'm pretty certain that the major brands of this country that produce their products in Bangladesh will also be very alarmed to know that they are operating in a country where democratic failures are taking place on an epic scale.
Yes.
And I suspect that once those people understand that they are then complicit in what is happening in Bangladesh, that they will not want to be judged as being agents in Bangladesh, a country which is now eliminating the rights of many, many groups of people. So there is a wider context to this discussion. It cannot be just a small group of people deciding that they will have a constitutional change that is not conducive to democratic processes. And regardless of what Dr. Yunus or this political analyst or whoever these people are decide, the world will have a say, because the world actually has a duty to be able to understand that where there is, and we've seen it in other places, where there is persecution, we have to speak up.
Absolutely.
And this is why I keep coming back to the importance of your viewers, of those people watching this channel and believing that because it's a country a very long way away, actually the Bangladeshi community that is here, many of them, regardless of which faith they are from, are very concerned. Because remember, for years, they have also been the diaspora that's invested in Bangladesh.
Absolutely, and with Britain, of course, there is a historic linkage. So the British Raj, if you like, and Bengal was the capital of British Raj once upon a time. So, and of course the curry culture is very much embedded in British society. So it's not something that one can just turn their back.
No.
And we don't want to know about it, because as you rightly say, there is a responsibility, and we really do live in a global village. And as a member of Family of Nation, which was born on the premise of a democratic country based on secularism, this tension is still going on. The political Islam, which wants to impose itself, as opposed to the secular premise upon which Bangladesh came into being, it emerged. So basically, from an Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Bangladesh made a 180-degree U-turn, and it became a country where there was equality for all, based on a secular democracy. So majority of Muslims gifted themselves a nation based on secular democracy. And this is something the political Islamist cannot accept. And this tension is ongoing, and Yunus' era would be probably remembered as the epitome of where they're purporting through the amendment to the constitution, which they have no mandate to do because it's only a parliament can do. But outside parliament, without any mandate, they have already purported to do that. And one of the proposals to this reform, which is a telltale sign, they want to remove the word secular from the constitution.
And that'd be interesting to see how other countries respond to that.
Yes.
Because, I mean, look, like I said to you, we can't live in isolation. We don't live in isolation. There are far too many countries that have invested in Bangladesh through lots of aid programs. And then, of course, you've got all those big business brands in Bangladesh. All of those will have a say. Can you just imagine all of them withdrawing? Just imagine all of those countries suddenly saying that unless you change this aid is going to stop.
Well, some of the reports indicate that Bangladesh is the verge of
Yes.
bankruptcy. We've nosedived from a growth rate of almost 6.57%. We're down to almost 2.5 to 3.
And it will go worse.
Yes.
And this will be all at the doorstep of Dr. Yunus.
Yes.
Because Dr. Yunus has got to recognise his position was there simply to hold the line for fair democratic processes to take place. As I said, in a democracy, elections decide on who the leader is.
Something very interesting about our jurisprudence that Bangladesh over the years have developed from the judiciary is what's known as the doctrine of basic structure, which means that there are certain basic pillars in the constitution. So, for example, this studio that we are sitting in, you can see, our viewers probably can't see, there's some sort of like a basic pillar. So, in the name of amendment to the constitution, if we take an axe and try and destroy that, it's not an amendment or improvement, it's a destruction of the constitution, because the whole constitution is predicated upon these basic pillars. So, one of the basic pillars is, of course, democracy, the sovereignty belonging to the people, and, of course, a secular democratic structure of the constitution. So even if there were to be 2/3 majority, like basic fundamental rights, the human rights, even with 2/3 majority, no parliament can take that away. So what this committee purported to do is touch upon and do away with these basic fundamental structures within the Constitution. And that's not permissible. That our jurisprudence doesn't allow that.
And I think this is where the naivety of people sometimes comes into play, not knowing the legalities of everything, not knowing that you cannot just decide one day to stop something and impose. Democracies don't work like that. I mean, you know, we live in a wonderful democracy here where even if we don't agree, we have an ability to raise our concerns without knowing that of fear of persecution. Now, in Bangladesh today, those minority communities, and you rightly pointed out right at the beginning of this program, actually make up a large majority of the country, because it's not just about one faith, although faiths are being targeted ruthlessly, and also the police and the army have been given extra powers, but those extra powers are not being utilised actually to stop the sort of persecutions that we're seeing. It is important that those people are held accountable, those institutions are held accountable, and I think that's why I come back to the point that I started with. In this country, as a country that has been a long-term friend and has a relationship with the subcontinent for a very, very, very long time, it is our duty to be able to question what is going on. And I would say it is also our duty to send in observers, whether it's from the EU, whether it's from us, whether it's from the Commonwealth, because Bangladesh still remains a member of the Commonwealth, to go in and have a good look at what is going on, independently of any country's influence. Because I think that's the only way we can get some real insight into what's happening.
You make some wonderful points, but we need to take a break. So our viewers, please remain with us. We're going to take a short break, and thereafter we'll be right back. Thank you. প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, আপনাদেরকে আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি দেশ বাংলার উইথ তানিয়া আমির লাইভ। আমার সাথে অতিথিরা থাকবেন পৃথিবীর বিভিন্ন প্রান্ত থেকে, যারা দক্ষিণ এশিয়া নিয়ে চলমান পরিস্থিতি নিয়ে আলোচনা করবেন, বিশেষ করে বাংলাদেশ। তার সাথে থাকবে আরও অনেক চমক। তাই আপনারা এমই টিভি দেখবেন, your channel of choice.
No drama, no exaggerations, just the truth. A complete news bulletin. MATV brings you Doordarshan News at 7 a.m., 11:30 a.m., 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. News the way it should be.
This week in review with Dr. Amjad Ayub Mirza. Every Monday at 4 p.m. only on MATV.
दास तेरे की बेन तीरथ कर परगास दास तेरे की बेनती रिद कर परगास दास तेरे की बेनती रिद कर परगास.
Greetings. Welcome to Desh Bangla with Tania Amir live. I shall be presenting to you guests from all around the world who will be discussing with me current affairs in South Asia, particularly Bangladesh, and so much more. So stay tuned with Amy TV, your channel of choice.
Thank you for remaining with us. We are back, and I have the honor and pleasure to have Right Honourable Baroness Verma with us in studio. So before the break, we were talking about elections. Now, as you know, that Dr. Yunus, when he was in the UK, he was invited to Chatham House, and at Chatham House, he said that the political party, Awami League, from the deposed Prime Minister, that has not been banned. Merely their activities have been suspended for a while. And that has been the narrative. Although lawyers across Bangladesh are saying that's not true, it's a verbal inexactitude, because the section that he invoked was Section 18 of Anti-Terrorist Act, and Awami League has been identified as a terrorist organization, and they have been banned. So for the first time, Dr. Yunus admitted that Awami League was banned when your overseas minister went and visited Bangladesh, and during that meeting, he admitted that Awami League is no longer available to participate in election. Now, what is relevant, and it begs the question that AL usually has about 35, even some people claim 40% votes. What is going to happen to 35 to 40% electorate? In which bag will they cast their vote? There's no symbol. So election, does it merely have to be free and fair, or does it also need to be inclusive?
So that's the key to all elections, regardless
Yes.
of where they are in the world. And I think, you know, the one thing I've learned is the way the elections and political parties have changed in this country. And that's simply because people felt that they were not being included in the discussions around their own presence in their own country. So I think it's really important that we always find ways of making sure that everybody is included in a process, whether we like that process or not. But it means also, therefore, that, you know, AL has got its challenges, and I'm sure that they will be made even more challenging if you want to vote for a political party that, as you point out, may be banned from being participants in it. But I have a feeling that people will make sure that their voices are heard through other political parties. The one thing that I know is protest votes are very loud, and protest votes tend to congregate together, coalesce together people that are just so anti the establishment of the day that they will be able to be heard. And I think whether we like that or not, it is a democratic process. And whether Dr. Yunus understands that if he is going to be judged as somebody who came in just to be an interim leader and not to be a decider on who the political parties are that actually operate in Bangladesh, I think he will probably have people tell him that he has got to preside over a fair way of delivering elections where all political parties can participate. Now, I am not going to get into the details of the deposing of the former Prime Minister. What I will say, though, is that it is not just a person. There will be many, many people involved in the political party of that she led. But it also means, though, that those people will have to find their own way of coming together to be a voice. Democracies work on challenge. They work on the basis that people are able to voice concerns. They work on the basis that people are able to actually throw a political party out. Democratically.
Do you, not necessarily in the manner in which the previous government was overthrown?
So again, I think there was a big silence from many countries about that process. I think we should have been much more questioning on what was happening under our noses in plain sight.
Yes.
And as I said, the rights and the wrongs of that are not about changing regimes. The wrongs and the rights are about, are we supporting the democratic processes?
Or complacent?
Well, there are many words you could use today for what has gone on before in 2024. But what I would say is that actually at the end of the day, destabilization is not a benefit to anyone. And stabilization was what Dr. Yunus was brought in to do as an interim leader. And I emphasize interim over and over again because he was not given a mandate by the public.
Of course. Of course, he talks about, and when he went to the UN in last year, before the Clinton Foundation, he actually identified some of the students, one particular individual who he identified as the mastermind. And soon thereafter, he took him on into his cabinet and his special advisors. So some of these students who he claims to be his employer, so he feels they have put him on power, and to that extent he feels, rightly or wrongly, that he needs to serve their purpose. So they were in his cabinet until very recently, and they have now formed a political party as well. So it does beg the question to what extent Dr. Yunus is placed to hold a free, fair, and certainly an inclusive election.
But Tania, my faith in the processes of others, making sure that they will expect it through proper observation, I think will play a large part. I think any election in Bangladesh will have a lot of observers there. And I think rightly so, because I think, first of all, it will stop any potential violence. I also think it will help people believe that the processes will be adhered to properly, because the role of independent observers, whether it's from the EU, whether it's from the Commonwealth Association, whether it's from the UK, and I'm sure the UK will be sending international observers from the UK, is to make sure that actually that there is a process being followed. Now, whether the recipients who win actually accept that is a different response. I can't predict that, neither can you. But I do think that one of the things that, and this is why when I am speaking to you, I'm also speaking to your audience.
Of course.
And it's really about making sure that we are asking those people who we've elected to represent us, and even if we haven't, they are your members of parliament. They are there to represent the whole of their constituency. It is really important that the questions are being asked by them. Which side are they standing on? Are they standing on the side of democracy? Are they standing on the side of inclusion? Are they standing on the side of the people, when you gather the numbers together, are the larger majority who are wanting to make sure that they are not completely culturally destroyed? Where are they standing? And I think those are the questions we've got to ask.
You asked some of the very fundamental questions. And elections are about, 5 weeks away. They're talking about 12th of February, which is not very far away. Of course, we are here on Christmas, New Year's holiday. So observers need to go pretty fast. At least 4 weeks ahead to see the situation, how it's culminating, because which is very, very concerning is the Tariq Zia, who represents BNP, the other party. He was, of course, here in the UK for the last 17 years. So he has gone back on Christmas Day, on 25th of, he arrived 25th of December, landed in Dhaka. Already, the radicals from the coalition of Jamaat Islam, his life threats have been given. And in the grapevine, what one hears is that all the key positions within the bureaucracy, people have been transferred and new individuals appointed. So Jamaat Islam has got more or less the whole bureaucracy under its belt, so as to speak. And while these open threats are being given, again, allowing the impunity culture. So Tariq Zia, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which he represents in lieu of Awami League, that seems to be the major party. And a leader who has gone back after 17 years is openly being threatened. Although the government has given him extensive protection, security, yet when there are open threats, political or otherwise, no action is being taken against, or a warning at least, or a caution to the other political aspirants. So this is of serious concern, and sooner the international community observers, I hope you'll be one of them because of your experience, to come to Bangladesh and be an
if I'm
observer.
asked, I will undoubtedly, if I'm asked, of course I will.
Because your understanding, given your experience, you've been there before, and I believe in one of the elections you're also an observer, were you not?
I was an
Yes.
observer indeed, and it was one of the most peaceful elections
And
that
transition.
I'd ever observed, and it was a very, very peaceful transition.
Do you want to tell our viewers which year this was?
Oh gosh, it was when I was very newly into the House of Lords, so it must be in sort of, I think it was early before we came into government.
Yes.
So it was 2007 or 8,
Right.
one of those years, I think it was. But it's a country that is a beautiful country full of culture. It's a country full of people that want aspiration and ambition. And it's being rolled back. And the people that have been there for generations from all communities have lived there
Peacefully. In harmony.
And even if there are some tensions, those tensions have always been dealt with, so that no community should feel that they are being persecuted. Now, for that to suddenly change is really quite alarming.
And reset our history, our cultural identity,
I mean,
the struggle of the people.
I will just say to you, you cannot reset history. You cannot airbrush out history. There are too many people with memories of that history. But what is frightening is that those people who are caretakers are allowing it to happen, and they must actually understand their role.
Yes. Before we conclude, because we're almost at the end of our program, perhaps we have a little time to touch upon that. When Dr. Yunus's government took over office, there was a reference to an opinion sought from the Supreme Court, the appellate division of the Supreme Court, based on a resignation letter that the former ousted Prime Minister had given. And this was allegedly sought from the President. What is very interesting, that resignation letter has not been produced. And no one has seen the signed copy of that resignation letter. And even the opinion under Article 106 of the Constitution that the Supreme Court Appellate Division has given, even the signed copy of that no one has seen. So I would have thought that in the interest of this government's own legitimacy, they would have put it on the website. So the question, therefore, is that whether this government at all has any legitimacy, and whether fraud was committed to obtain that opinion from the Supreme Court, because the Prime Minister has said that she never tendered any such resignation letter. So, you know, we are mired into so many controversies.
There'll be lots of theories.
Yes.
There'll be lots of unknowns. And I am not privy to that, and neither are you. What we are privy to is what's happening in front of our eyes today, and what our ask should be from any sensible leader is to put forward the question of what are they doing to protect every single citizen in their country.
Very good. I think on that note, perhaps we can end our today's show. But Right Honourable Baroness Verma, thank you so much.
Thank you
coming.
so very much for having
and
me.
I hope this is not the first time you'll be in my show. I hope to have you back. Do you promise?
Well, as long as we can talk a little bit more about women, I'll be very happy to come back.
I hope that we will talk about women and empowerment of women, because Bangladesh has been at the forefront in South Asia.
Indeed.
Where the women indicators were quite higher than our neighbouring countries. Unfortunately, at the moment, that's reversed and we're nosediving. So I hope we will have you back on a happier occasion. And in the meantime, we hope there will be an election. And
A peaceful election.
Yes, and a peaceful transition.
A peaceful election, a peaceful transition. And for all of your viewers, just to wish you all a very, very happy new year. But just to remind you that whilst we celebrate, there will be others that will need our support.
Thank you again. And for our viewers, thank you for being with us. Hope to see you soon. And in the meantime, wishing you all a very happy new year. Joy Bangla.